What we have today are 3 OG Triumph Scrambler 400s, and these motorcycles are not long terms or any sort. They've not been given to us by Bajaj. We own all of these motorcycles. The first one here, this is the oldest one of the lot. It's around 2 years old. I bought this in March 2024 and it's clocked around 12,000 kilometers. Next up we have Lenny from the car team.
I bought mine in August 2024 and I have done some 7,000 kilometers.
And next we have Saptarshi from the web team with his Scrambler 400 XC.
So I bought mine in August 2025 and have clocked about 3,300 kilometers so far.
So in total we have 22,000 kilometers of riding experience with us, and we are here to share with you our insights on the ownership experience, the service experience, the riding experience and everything in between. And we know what you're thinking. The 350s have been launched and they are already here, and these motorcycles are not being sold anymore. But a lot of what we have experienced will apply to those motorcycles as well. So let's get into it. I don't know, when my bike was at around 6,000 kilometers or so, I started hearing a ticking sound from the engine, which was very irritating.
One thing I've learned, there's no such thing as a free service.
So during my first service, I actually had to leave my motorcycle at the service center overnight, and that wasn't very pleasant.
No, actually what you're telling me is quite shocking, because I didn't know this was also taking place. So let me give you some perspective on why I bought this motorcycle. Now before this, I was owner of a KTM Duke 390, the first generation model. But I guess over time what I realized is that those bikes are not always the most practical option, and at the same time I also don't want an adventure bike. So that brought me to this. This is the perfect middle ground, I feel. I mean, it looks really nice, and when I saw it the first time I wasn't all that convinced after riding it, but when I spent a little more time with it in the city, I realized that it does have those naked bike characteristics while being practical. Next, Lenny, what's your story?
So my story is a little bit different from that. This is actually the smallest capacity bike I've ever owned. I lived a large part of my life abroad, so I've had bigger bikes. But when I moved here, I wanted something which I could use every day, every situation. I wasn't looking at doing touring or anything immediately. And this is what really fits me in terms of being a proper everyday usable bike. It's a scrambler in name, but in our bad roads and everything, this works really well. And I like the whole retro aesthetic. The green recalls Steve McQueen, all of that stuff. I like that whole imagery of the bike, and that's why I went ahead and got this. I know Saptarshi's story is a little bit different as well.
Oh, very different. This actually is my first bike. But before this, like a million other teenagers in our country, I grew up riding my father's Hero Splendor. So this is my really first taste of a bike with some reasonable performance. And what I was looking for is a do-it-all motorcycle, but I also intended to use it only for leisurely purposes, so weekend rides and off-road trails and all of that, and a bit of city commute as well.
Now while all these motorcycles are the same, all of us have different use cases when it comes to them. My KTM Duke was always fun, the engine was mind-blowing, but I started realizing that the suspension and the nature of the bike, it was too stiff and it wasn't enjoyable to take on long distances in the city or even far out. So that's when I realized that sitting on the Scrambler, first thing that I want to say is that the handlebar is one of the best stock handlebars that I've seen on a motorcycle currently in the market, because it just places you in a very nice and commanding position along with the seat that keeps you upright. And I realized that longer distances were just a breeze. My office commute had increased, so I started doing almost a 50-kilometer round trip in a day, and it felt effortless on this. And now that I stay in Bombay, I keep going back home to Pune every other weekend, and in that commute I only have to take one small break. That's how comfortable the bike is. I don't use it much off-road, but I do like the fact that, you know, it has that capability to slightly wade off the road when you need to.
My bike, this was supposed to be a everyday, all-purpose sort of bike. I don't use it off-road either. I commuted on it for a good 8 months or so. I did through the rain, in the summer, and it was perfectly fine. I really appreciate the way the suspension works in the city, and the engine. It has enough grunt to get me in and out of situations really quickly, very useful in the city. I do not use it that much on the highway, and I of course don't use it off-road, which is something that Saptarshi does.
Yeah, so like I mentioned, my bike is primarily for leisure. So it's meant to take me out of the cities. And what I really like about the motorcycle is that it does not intimidate me off-road. I'm still new to off-road riding and I'm still learning it on this motorcycle, and I've dropped it a couple of times already. But each time I could just pick up the bike and continue riding. It does not scare me. I'm not even afraid of dropping it. You know, it has held up really well, and it's been perfectly comfortable for me.
Getting into the things that we really like about this motorcycle, I'd have to start off with how gorgeous it looks and how well it is built. What do you say?
I think it looks really good, very well proportioned. There are just too many colors on the bike. Like if I could change the seat to a black seat like he has.
Especially on the X variant.
Yeah, that has improved a fair bit. The subframe is all black on that. We have grey subframes. These few things if we could fix, I think this would be absolute perfection. It is very well finished. I like how they've done a good job of hiding all the cables on it as far as possible.
Absolutely.
It's not something that some Indian manufacturers do. And it has held up really well. You've had it for
like
2-3
12,000
years now.
kilometers, and every time I've even gone to the service station, they've made sure to tighten the bolts or anything. Nothing's ever come loose. I mean, apart from the number plate, which is a problem on every motorcycle today.
For me, design was actually one of the biggest reasons why I picked this motorcycle. I was really conflicted between this and the KTM 390 Adventure. But for me, this teared up tank, round headlamps and spoked wheels, nothing speaks more quintessential motorcycle than that. And I really love this yellow color, it pops out so nicely. So design was one of the biggest reasons why I chose this motorcycle. Every time I park it and I walk away, I make sure I turn back and take a look at it. And yeah, like I mentioned, I've dropped the bike a couple of times, and nothing really has broken apart from things like the knuckle guards and the engine guards. Now these are the parts that are meant to take a beating. They took the beating. I got those parts replaced, but apart from that, nothing rattles, nothing shakes, and it's held up really well.
Yeah, that's true. Even the motor, the gearbox, they all still feel tight. There is no sense of an additional layer of noise that has come after like the first service, second service, any of that sort. It still sounds the same to me at least.
The engine for me, it's actually it doesn't suit how the bike looks. When you ride it, you're like, okay, wow, this has got go. I mean, it looks very, like gentleman's ride type of scene, but when you sit on it after 3000 RPM, it's a whole different animal. It's fun to ride. I enjoyed popping wheelies on it. Now we know that the 350s are already launched and they're really refined engines and they've changed the complete nature. But this engine spoke to me more than the 350 because of its hooligan nature. What do you say?
Yeah, I haven't ridden the 350, but I like the way this engine behaves. It has that big single sort of character. It has a good amount of grunt. You don't really need to extend it all the way to the red line, which I appreciate.
In fact, the mid-range grunt is what is most enjoyable on this bike.
Exactly. It's good for the purposes that we use them for. Like in the city and all that grunt, like being able to ride around in third gear, open the throttle when you need to, and even out on the highway, in my experience, even in sixth, for the most part, I don't need to downshift.
You actually don't need to.
Actually don't need to downshift. Is what I even noticed when I rode the 350s, is that you do need to make a downshift here or there depending on where you're going to make an overtake, whereas on this, it just chugs along in whichever
from 80
gear
to
you
120, any on sixth gear, any speed, you can just open the throttle and it really pulls with quite some enthusiasm.
Right. And then there's the suspension, the big selling point on the Scrambler.
Many people crib about the fact that the suspension is not at all good off-road. But in my opinion, this bike was never made to be an off-road motorcycle. And what I would say is the suspension, it's not stiff, it's not plush, but it has this very good middle ground. So that's why I like taking it to the twisty roads and cornering on this bike, because it gives me that confidence to push a little harder, enter corners a little faster, brake into corners. So yeah, overall, I've really enjoyed the suspension setup.
Yeah, it could have been plusher. I mean, there are like the Himalayan stuff like that. That takes bad roads like nothing else. But this is a good balance. Otherwise, I think the suspension works well. I've come across some really deep potholes. I've hit them at speed where if I was on, let's say, a Duke, I would have probably been thrown off the bike. Whereas this takes it a lot easier.
I agree. Like I said, for me, it's been so perfect that even though I do have a bit of this with the rear, so because I'm a lightweight rider, sometimes the rear does throw me up if I hit a really bad.
It does to me too.
But I'm ready to be okay with that, considering how nicely it handles corners. And now let's get into the things that we don't like so much on our bikes.
I think one thing we can unanimously agree that we do not like about the bike are the brakes.
Yeah, totally agreed over there. I mean, I started off with the organic pads and they lasted me 3,000 kilometers.
Mine, the organics lasted only 500 kilometers the first time, but they did change them under warranty the first time because it was such a short period that they lasted for. They changed them again to organics, which again lasted about 2,500 kilometers, and then I switched to sintered, and those have lasted me now till my 7,000 kilometers.
So for me, the first set of brake pads lasted about 1,700 kilometers. I switched to organics again, and now 3,300 kilometers done, and I think I've worn out the second set also, nearly.
Yeah, but I think the sinters are a good upgrade because it costs about 3,000 rupees for the front. I think it is a good upgrade that most people should do, and more than that, I think Triumph should start giving it as standard. You were saying that they've improved the organics.
They say that around 6 months back they've improved the quality of the organic brake pads to be a little better. But in my opinion, you should just go with the sintered pads, get that extra pair, because after putting on sintered, they lasted me around 7,000 to 8,000 kilometers. After which I again changed them to sintered, and which I'm running over here now.
Now the second dislike, headlight. You both still have your guards on and I don't have it because it becomes just so difficult to clean the headlight first of all, and the headlight as it is quite dim. In most situations at least, that's what I find.
No, I agree. The headlight is quite dim. I mean, it does add that rugged look to the bike and all that, but it's not at all a practical part. I mean, I guess I've just been lazy. I don't know why I've not removed it yet, but yeah.
What else?
Next, gearing.
Gearing, a lot of people say is a little too short. For me, since I'm using it primarily in the city, I wouldn't change the gearing. Maybe if you're doing like Mumbai, Pune often like you do, maybe you'd feel like you need taller gearing.
So there are a lot of people who have swapped out the sprocketing of this for the speed sprocketing, and they say that it slightly improves the experience on the highway. But when I'm in the city, like you said, I don't want to give up this sprocketing. I really enjoy the short gearing in the city. It's peppy to get through traffic, through bad sections, just quickly, and yeah, I enjoy the gearing.
And what's it like off-road with this?
Off-road is actually pretty fine, but out on the highway, I often find myself looking for a 7th gear or wishing that the engine was sitting at a slightly lower RPM. So I'm actually keen on experimenting with the larger sprocket size.
Then there is the tires, is one reason for me to complain. I don't particularly feel these tires are very confidence inspiring. They feel very distant for some reason. There's not a lot of real feedback coming through, and the rear is quite easy to get out of line.
I agree. So when I got the bike first, I mean, I was never a fan of the tires ever since I first rode the bike at the first ride. But over time, I started to maybe just adapt to riding it. But I can tell you for sure that the bike is capable of way more than the tires allow it to do.
And the problem is also the sizing. The front tire is easily available in multiple different options, but the rear tire is not something that you get from many different manufacturers. Even if you notice the stock MRFs, the front is a zapper curve apparently, and the rear is a Rev Z.
Yeah, rear is a Rev Z.
So even MRF couldn't source like two same tires for the front and the rear. So it's going to be difficult for us.
It is an odd size, so or you can go with another tire manufacturer. I think Eurogrip has an option, but you'll have to downsize the rear.
Yeah, that's not something I want to do.
Yeah, I don't want to ruin the proportions of my bike, so I'm going to stick with the stock size.
Now off-road, I actually, the one time I slipped, it was because of the tires. It was a very loose surface and I was hard on the accelerator, so I lost traction and that's how I slipped. So it is not good off-road, it is not good on-road. So yeah, tires are definitely something you might want to upgrade in the long run.
And finally, let's come to one issue. It's the stalling issues that this bike faces. So when I got the bike, it was perfectly fine, but maybe 3-4 months into owning it, I suddenly started facing a stalling issue at very, very low RPM. So let's say the bike is just chugging along at 1000, 2000 RPM. The bike just suddenly switches off and stalls. And after that, when I try to restart it on the go, I have to shift into neutral, otherwise it won't restart. So it's a very random issue. There are times where it completely stops for 2 weeks, and there are times where it happens every day in a week.
I had the same problem, but to some extent, I feel like since the introduction of E20 and since the octane rating of fuel has gone up, I feel that my problem is mostly solved. Like it now almost never stalls. It will still happen maybe once a month thereabouts, but for the most part it doesn't stall anymore. And it has been in for the second service, and I think they did an update then with the software. I think that may have helped also, but I think for now the problem with the stalling, at least with my bike, is mostly sorted. Saptarshi has never had the stalling problem at all.
My bike is much newer and I think they fixed this down the line. Somehow I have never experienced any stalling issue on my bike at all.
Like I mentioned on my bike also, it's just a issue at very low RPMs. It's never like the bike will just shut off when it's at high RPM on the highway or something.
Same.
When I'm doing highway runs, when the bike is heated up, it won't stall. But there are these times where I just leave out in the morning and I'm like 3-4 intersections away from home and in a low RPM and it just stalls.
Yeah.
So it's a very random issue.
And if it stalls, then at least when it used to happen early on for me, I would need to switch off the key and on again. And then it would start.
Like I mentioned, I needed to put it into neutral. It would not start in gear when I press the clutch and try to start it.
That's what everyone's experience has been a little bit different, and maybe that's something to do with consistency overall, but it's not something that is uniform across all 3 bikes here, even just these 3 bikes.
I think another thing we wanted to talk about is that the turning radius on this bike is a little too long. Like, it's a tall motorcycle, so on narrow roads you will find it difficult to take a full U-turn in one go.
It's a little bit cumbersome to park every once in a while in a tight spot, but it's not something you can't manage. For me, more annoying, in fact, I think is the side stand. I think it's a little too long.
Yeah,
even I find it very annoying, especially when parking it in off-road places like this, when the surface is uneven, and because it is very long, you have to find the right spot where the bike can lean enough and it does not topple over.
And finally, one of the things that I do not like on this motorcycle is the dash, because the rev counter in it is very difficult to read and it just gets annoying at times. I would have wished for a twin pod analog console with the speedometer and tachometer on either side, and that would have just given it a really classic look. So let's get into what's gone wrong with our bikes, why we needed to take it to the service station. I have an important one there. When my bike was at around 6,000 kilometers or so, I started hearing a ticking sound from the engine, which was very irritating, and that's when I figured out that my chain tensioner part needed to be replaced. So I had to go to the showroom. The part wasn't available for a bit, but they got it within a few days and replaced the part. And again, 2,500 to 3,000 kilometers after that part was replaced, the same issue happened again. And Triumph again replaced the part. Ever since then, I've not faced the chain tensioner issue, but yeah, it happened 2 times to me. And apart from that, when I was around 1,000 or 2,000 kilometers into my time with the bike, I busted one of the fork oil seals, and Triumph replaced that in warranty, so that was completely free.
So my fork seal also wore out, but that was at 7,000 thereabouts kilometers. So very recently. I've had fork seal cover since new. So actually I was surprised that happened, but they couldn't cover it under warranty because it was already 7,000 kilometers. Yeah. So it was 1,200 rupees on one side. Apart from that, I had one unscheduled visit to the service station. My lock barrel, the ignition barrel, actually jammed very early on. So it was a very strange sort of thing that happened. The handle was locked. I came down with my key, put the key in, and it just wouldn't unlock. Brought my spare key, tried that, unlocked immediately. I locked it again, removed the key, tried it again with the spare key, again it refused to unlock. Now I had 2 keys, both of which couldn't unlock this bike for some reason. So I called the service center. They said, we'll send you a recovery or whatever. I kept trying. They said try some WD-40 or whatever. I tried. I managed to unlock it. I left it unlocked the whole night, and the next morning I took it to the service center. They did the same thing. They tried WD and whatnot. I said I'd just be comfortable if you change the lock, because it still felt a little notchy.
But it wasn't an immobilizer issue.
That's what someone told me, that it could have been an immobilizer issue, but then in my opinion, I think the immobilizer stops the engine from firing. Like when you switch on the bike, right? It shouldn't have anything to do with a mechanical handle lock. So that is where I have conflicting sort of reports. But the service center told me it was a lock thing. Maybe the water got into it or something of that sort. But it was changed. And since then, I've seen 2 monsoons. It's been fine since then. But yeah, I had to get the three of these lock barrels changed, all under warranty, which is fine.
So yeah, if it's an immobilizer issue, it shouldn't be so much of an issue now, since they don't give it on the 350s.
One thing I wanted to add, it's not a problem yet, but I feel this might be a problem in the long run. My bike in particular, I have the shorter fender up front, and in the monsoons and even on regular wet roads, it will throw up a lot of dirt straight into the radiator. So the bottom third of the radiator is sort of caked in mud. And the same thing on the back, and this is common to both of you, the back tire throws a lot of mud onto the rear shock, which I'm assuming, this being a scrambler, maybe they've built that shock to handle this sort of thing. But it's not something you're very comfortable with. You see that shock completely caked in mud, you feel like that is not the right thing. I don't know, that's
No,
just
I agree. I mean, I get the bike washed like 2 or 3 times a week. I get it power washed, because when I see that, it just doesn't sit right with.
So now let's talk about the servicing. One thing I've learned, there's no such thing as a free service. The first free service as such was about 2,500 rupees. I know Saptarshi was also around the same.
Yeah, same 2,200 rupees.
Yeah, so that was when I bought the bike was in Pune. So I had it done at the camp dealership in Pune, which was fine. Service and all is fine. My bigger problem came at my second service, which was done in Mumbai. There's only one service station in the entire island of Mumbai. It's in Goregaon, as far as I know, and there's another one in Thane. There's nothing else in South Bombay or anything of that sort. So the second service, my bigger problem was they tend to over-service the bike. In the sense that my bike had only covered about 5,000 kilometers then, and my bill was 6,100.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and half of those things were stuff which are not as per the service schedule. I mean, I want to list this out. The coolant, which needs to be changed every 4 years as per the service schedule, they did that. 759 total parts and labor. Front and rear brake fluid replaced and bleeding done. Again, some 783 rupees parts and labor. Fuel tank was removed to clean, which I think is unnecessary. 5,000 kilometers.
Very unnecessary.
Yeah. 450 rupees in labor, and I had to go back because they didn't clean the drain hole. So the water would fill up there. So if you've taken off the tank to clean and you don't clean the drain hole, that's a bit suspect there. Throttle body cleaning, 750 bucks, which again, opening up the bike and taking off the throttle body to clean on a 5,000 kilometer bike seems very unnecessary to me. Again, it's not in the service schedule.
Only, I mean, you do clean throttle body, but only if there's some major issue that you're facing.
Yeah, and I didn't complain of any of that. So that shouldn't have been done. And the triple tree, the what's called the cone set, was opened up and re-lubed, 450 bucks for that, labor only. But again, I had to go back because they didn't set it properly. So if you add up all these things, that comes to about 3,100. Now, partly my fault is because I didn't ask what are you going to do in the second service. I assume that they'll follow the schedule and do what needs to be done. But all these things were a bit unnecessary. I'm okay with the brake fluid and maybe the coolant. But the other stuff was unnecessary if you ask me on a 5,000 kilometer bike. And that exactly doubled my service bill. That is a bit of a disappointment to me.
No, actually what you're telling me is quite shocking because I didn't know this was also taking place. What I noticed was when, like you were saying, there is no such thing as a free service. In fact, my second free servicing, the bill was cheaper than the first free servicing. And I was like, what? Yeah. And all these parts, like every time I go, I'm very particular about my bike. I make sure I ask them in the job card what they're doing. I feel like you got into a situation where they decided to just change your parts to get a little extra.
Partly my fault. Like if anyone who has a bike of this sort or any bike for that matter, when you speak to the service advisor, ask him what they're going to do. Ask him which of these things are in the service schedule because they tend to, obviously they are a business, they tend to do what they feel is necessary. And especially on a bike which claims to have a 16,000 kilometer service interval. Like I feel that...
Oh, that's as good as saying free servicing. I've already completed around 3 servicings plus the additional visits to this. And I have always got my stuff done from Pune. So even now that I stay in Bombay, I ride down to Pune and I get my work done there. And I get it done at Pune camp. It's been quite reliable overall. There were just 1 or 2 times where, like I mentioned, they didn't have the chain tensioner part available for a couple of days and some small things like that. But in total, in these last 2 years, I've spent a total of around 15,500 rupees on maintaining this motorcycle at Triumph officially.
And as you said, the service experience itself is good. It's not a reflection on the people working there. They do seem to follow up. They do seem to be working promptly. But the problem I feel is maybe Triumph is not yet equipped to handle the volume of bikes that are coming their way now. Like in Mumbai, in the entire island of Mumbai, has to just go to Goregaon to get their bike serviced or Thane. There are just these 2 options, which I know Saptarshi also has been to both these workshops because you couldn't get an appointment at one.
Correct.
That's a bit of a...
That was when I actually wanted to get one of these parts replaced because I had broken the knuckle guard and the front brake lever and also the engine guard. So I got these replaced. The engine guard costed me 1,200 rupees, the brake lever costed me 1,800 rupees, which I found a little bit expensive, and the knuckle guard is fairly cheap, it's 430 rupees. So that was all I spent on replacing the few parts that I had damaged. But apart from that, one thing I want to talk about is, like you mentioned, they are not equipped to handle so many of these bikes, and because the bigger Triumph bikes are also getting service at the same station. So during my first service, I actually had to leave my motorcycle at the service center overnight, and that wasn't very pleasant. So I think if they did more to spread the network a little further, I think that would really help them.
Yeah, especially in Mumbai. In Pune, it's a
No,
lot
so
better.
no, but again in Pune, like I completely even agree with you. In Pune, they do have a lot of service stations, but again, it matters on how you approach the service center. Like
True.
you're going to have to go there early in the morning and be the first guy there, or you're going to have to wait a very long time for someone to even come and make a job card for you. That's been a hassle for me. I remember the first couple of times until I built my reputation with the people at the service station, and now when I go in, they know who I am, and you know, they encourage me to come in and they'll get my bike done. In fact, recently I went to the service station at around 3 or 4 in the afternoon, thinking I can leave my bike there overnight and get the chain set replaced completely, because I needed a whole new chain set now that the bike's done 12,000 kilometers. And I thought, you know, he said it will be done by tomorrow. I expected it to be done by tomorrow, but I actually got a call at 8:30, 8:45 in the night saying your bike is ready, you can come and pick it up today. Which was quite impressive. I didn't have to leave my bike overnight, and I went and picked it up the same night. But again, when I started going there in the beginning, I was pretty upset with how many bikes were at the service station at once, and it just started to look like this is too much crowd. I myself don't want to leave my bike here because it's too much crowd, and they could not even give me a timeline of when can you make my job card.
Right.
So hopefully, yeah, we're looking forward to way more Triumph dealerships and service stations, so that, you know, anyone can just go in and get work done whenever they need to. Okay, now let's come to fuel economy, a very important point. I think if you ride this bike in a very calm and composed manner, you're easily going to be able to get between 25 to 28 kilometers per liter.
Yeah.
But the way I ride, realistically, I get approximately 20 to 22 kilometers per liter. I've never crossed, I think, 260 kilometers on a full tank. That's the range I've got maximum on a full tank. What's your experience been like?
Same in the city, purely riding in heavy traffic in the city, I've seen as low as 18, 19, but that's like really heavy traffic in the city. The maximum I've seen is 28 on a ride to Pune. And so on average I see about 22 thereabouts, but then again, you know, we ride a little more aggressive than the general public would.
I have actually managed to eke out more than 300 kilometers from a full tank, only out on the highway, not in the city. So that was a pure highway run. I did actually 320 kilometers. So I would say full tank range is decent. But one thing I would like to highlight is that the fuel gauge never shows the correct fuel reading. Both distant to empty and the meter itself showing how much fuel you have, they are never showing you the accurate reading. So you're always guessing how much you can actually go.
And quick sidebar on this, I use just regular fuel. I've never gone for premium fuel at all. I don't know about Azaman.
I have experimented with premium fuel once or twice. It didn't make that much of a difference. In fact, I did it just because I was trying to sort out the stalling issue and see whether that made a difference, but honestly, it didn't make much of a difference. I've used premium fuel, I've used E20, I've tried power, I've tried all the possible solutions. But now, yeah, I stick to normal fuel only. Okay, let's get into our final thoughts now. Knowing everything that we know, the likes, the dislikes, how it's like to live with, whether it's good on-road, off-road, would we still buy these motorcycles? So what I would say is I've had a blast in the last 2 years of, you know, commuting on this, doing long distance rides, highway rides, twisty rides, and it's kept me safe. It's been a fun bike to ride. So there are a few things I would change, but yeah, this is the motorcycle I would surely go back to. Coming to things I would change, I don't think it's fair that the model that's exported gets the Metzeler Tourange tires and we get the MRF tires. So that's something that I would have liked to see stock from the start. And something very important that I wanted to talk about is that I was very excited after buying the motorcycle when I saw that the XC gets these really cool looking tubeless spoked wheels, and my plan was to get these wheels and fit them onto my motorcycle because I felt, wow, it would look so much better. I always thought that the Scrambler would look better with these cross-spoke wheels. But all that came crashing down when I found out that those wheels and fitting them can cost you upwards of 83,000 rupees, which I don't think is fair at all because these are 400cc motorcycles. This bike is 30,000 more expensive than this model. Yeah, 27,000 more expensive than this model. And still, you're charging us for a part which is wildly expensive. And another thing on top of that, that even if I decide to go out and spend that 82,000 rupees and get those wheels, my warranty on my bike is completely void. Which again, I don't think is very fair. I mean, there are other manufacturers in the market who really help you with customization of your motorcycle and, you know, allow you to do all the things you want to do with your motorcycle without voiding any warranty. So I feel like it would be nice to have that option here.
True, very true. And yeah, again, looking at everything that's on the market today, if I were shopping in the same category for the same money today, I think I would still go back to the Triumph. And although I do plan on keeping this bike for a while, there is one big but. The fact that Triumph refuses to sell parts over the counter, service parts. So you sort of have to stay in the Triumph ecosystem as long as you want to keep your warranty. And even post your warranty, you don't have that freedom where you can buy parts from Triumph and then take it to your local mechanic and have them fitted, which will then again obviously cost a lot more in the long run. So that is the only thing which sort of plays on my mind in terms of keeping this bike long term. But overall the experience has been really, really good.
So for me, this is my first motorcycle and I would really like to retain it for long. It is not perfect for my use case out on the highway or as an off-roader also, but I find it a very beautiful motorcycle. It has a lovely character to it, it's friendly, it's got enough performance, and overall, you know, that you can own a Triumph in this price range of rupees 3 to 4 lakh, I think that's a bragging right in itself. So even my experience has been very good and I would like to retain it for long.
Okay, so overall, we've enjoyed covering all these kilometers on our motorcycles. They've done around 22,000 in total. It's been a good experience overall. I've spent 2 years with it and it's been fun. And what I would like to say is, if you're in the market for a motorcycle that does a little bit of everything really nicely, example, you want a lightweight machine, you want a machine that's good in the city and good on the highway and good while cornering as well, and at the same time you get a really commanding riding position which is comfortable and that slight bit of off-road capability as well, you know what to pick. And finally, I know it's not possible and it would have been a really expensive thing to do, but considering that KTM is still keeping the 390s alive for the Indian market, it would have been nice in the Scrambler lineup if maybe the XC was still left with the OG 399cc engine.